Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the March 25th meeting of the Blackstone-Millville Regional School District School Committee. I officially call this meeting to order and ask that you all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll ask that you please remain standing for a moment, and I would ask for a moment of silence in recognition of the life and contributions of Mrs. Margaret Carroll, who gave tremendous amount not only to our school district, but to the town of Millville, and was really known as the historian of our community, and did a lot for our schools, including the beautiful quilt with the history of Millville. So if we could remember Mrs. Carroll. Thank you all. I am Jane Reggio. I am a member of the school committee from the town of Millville.
Erin Vanaco, Millville rep.
Tammy Lemieux, Blackstone.
Harry Gaudette, Blackstone.
Jack Keefe, Blackstone.
Sarah Williams, Blackstone.
Karen Vernon, Millville.
Matt Aaronworth, Assistant Superintendent.
Jason DeFalco, Superintendent.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone. We have on our agenda some consent items, warrants, and minutes of our March 11th meeting. I will entertain a motion to approve consent agenda A.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? There's an opportunity for public forum if anyone would like to address the school committee. Erin, I'm going to send these your way.
I don't know.
Okay. All right, moving on. We have two requests in our packet from parents. The first one is from I may have switched them around, but one from Mrs. LaFond. Her youngest daughter will be 5 on September 6th this year. I am wondering if there is an option to test her in so she can attend kindergarten this upcoming school year. Her K-prep teachers have recommended that she attend, and I think she would do fine. Let me know what the options are. And then a very similar request from an Ashley Laferte. And she is hoping to register her son Isaac for kindergarten. His birth date is September 8th. So although they don't quite meet the cutoff for his age, she's hoping to see if he could possibly be evaluated and considered for kindergarten this fall. So does anyone have a preference of considering one at a time, both together? Looking for a recommendation here.
Both.
Both together? Okay. This is something we do have to take action on. So I will entertain a motion. I'll entertain a motion in the positive to approve these requests, and if somebody would like to make it in that format, and then if we choose not to, we just would vote that down. But I need a motion so we can have a discussion.
I'll move to approve the requests.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all right. So comments, questions, concerns? No one?
I guess I'll take the. I guess our concern, or my concern, which is a concern that we have had in the past, is making exceptions to the start date. Then where does the exception end? There's always going to be a cutoff. There's always going to be someone that's on the one side or the other, just making it or not making it. And I think that it creates a very slippery slope if we make exceptions to the rule, to the policy.
Anyone else?
I just want to point out that we do have a policy in place that states they have to be 5 by the first day of school, of that school year. So again, piggybacking what Tammy just said is altering it for individuals could really interrupt our policy decisions, so,
And we have said no.
yeah. We had a big one last year.
Yep, yep. And we did encourage families who, if we do say no, to look for, other alternatives if they feel strongly about kindergarten. There are, as was mentioned in the past, kindergartens that you can do, and then once kindergarten is complete, then it's eligibility for first grade. And I agree. I think, if you say, well, one is only missing 1 day, and then the other's missing 3 days, but if it's then 3 days, then what if somebody comes in 4 days, 5 days, like what, I don't know. But having had a child who was more than ready for kindergarten prior to the age of 5, I also understand a parent's desire to move their child academically forward.
So with that being said, are we missing opportunity on enrollment and retaining our students in our community? Is it a policy we should relook at for future, or, I mean, where do you put that cutoff? When I first joined the committee 9 years ago, it was August 15th. So it was.
Remember that date well.
It was August 15th, so maybe that was where they were thinking when they moved it backwards like that, so they didn't miss these groups of students. But, I mean, that would be a policy conversation, not a today conversation.
Yeah, and I think regardless of where we put the date, there's that,
There's going to be somebody who's 1 day before and 1 day afterwards.
And I appreciate the parents, thought of, let's evaluate them and see if they're ready. I appreciate that line of thinking. But then what, you have sometimes you could potentially have a 4-year-old student who happens to be academically excelled, and then are you then allowing a 4-year-old into kindergarten? I think at some point, again, it just opens up it opens it up too much, and then you're still either way you're making a decision on what side of things you are. And I think socially you open up, it's not just about academics, and judge it and evaluating them socially is a lot more difficult, I think. So
Go ahead,
As the
Karen.
parent of a September baby, I know there are other options when you feel that your child is academically ready. So I think the cutoff date, no matter where it is, there's always going to be a child who falls on the other side of it. So it's
Okay. Anyone else? Hard to see Karen over there. Hello, sir. All right, well, hearing no further discussion, so the motion on the floor is to approve the requests. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay.
nay.
Any abstentions? So we will not approve those requests. I noticed that Representative Soter has just joined us. Hi, Mike. If you want to come forward, we'll give you the floor.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
How is everybody? It's a different setup, so.
It's a minute to get
I
used
think
to.
the last time I did this, we were in one big round table.
Yes, we were.
Good evening, and thank you for having me, and it's, I think it was a little over a year before the pandemic hit that we were here and talking about all the plans that we had moving forward, and it's been a tough year. I think it's been a tough year on everybody, especially school kids who have had a huge void. So I think we're moving in the right direction. We definitely have now a regional clinic after much hard work among all the 12 towns that were part of it, plus the folks in Uxbridge who helped put it together, along with our delegation pushing to get this going. I'm truly excited. I think I said to the media earlier when it opened, when they asked me on Monday, I said it's like opening day of baseball, you know, watching the Red Sox play and hoping for a win, and it was a win. It ran smooth. People went in, people went out. People were able to get appointments. We were able to get some of the seniors that were still struggling to try in our region, in our towns, to get appointments. Teachers, I know they're having a clinic, I think it's this Saturday, for teachers and seniors, which is extremely important for the district to get all of our teachers vaccinated. I know that was a huge concern, and we were pushing that strongly so that we can have the teachers feel comfortable being back in the classrooms. And you know, most of that I think is more so the fact that, you know, just that the teachers can feel comfortable among each other, not so much the children as much, but just feeling comfortable around each other and socially talking and things like that. So I think that was a huge plus of having this clinic there and getting teachers vaccinated. Just a quick update where we are. We're going to be going into the budget pretty soon. We're going to be looking at the fiscal year. The great thing is that the good thing is that the stimulus package that was just passed was there, so that is going to help. We're trying to figure out exactly how that's going to fill the gaps in the state budget so that we go into this budget season a little bit differently than we did last year. Hopefully, we'll get reimbursed for all the spending that we've done last year, and then we'll focus on where the gaps are this year and fill those gaps so we don't have to make some tough choices that we thought we were going to make. I do want to address, because I've been getting a lot of emails from folks in Blackstone, Millville, I do want to address the Mcas testing, as far as canceling the Mcas testing. I am a strong advocate for holding back on doing that this year, just because of all the changes and a lot of the stresses on the children, and that would just be one more stress to add on. And I don't know necessarily what we're going to learn or what we're not going to learn or what we could possibly learn from the Mcas test being done this year, except for the fact that we could get probably a temperature on how remote learning might have happened or worked, or having just elementary school kids go full-time, not high school kids, et cetera, et cetera. But that is federally mandated, and unless they give us an exemption, there's nothing the state can do. So I just want to let folks know I hear you loud and clear on it. We've addressed it. We've asked our congressional delegation to look into it, to address it with the administration and the U.S. Secretary of Education to give us that exemption. Or give us some sort of exemption so that the superintendents, the administrations, and whatnot can have some sort of guidance on where they would like us to go on this. Because I don't know necessarily we're going to get the true test of what that test is supposed to give us in a year where there's so many unknowns. I just know it personally with my daughter. I'm sure I'm just one of many thousands of kids throughout the district that are in the same situation. So I hear it loud and clear. We're addressing it. We're addressing it with the delegation, and that's what we're going to focus on. We do have an opportunity that we will try to ask for some budget amendments to ask and allocate for our districts. I did talk to Dr. DeFalco briefly about it to put some thought process. I know I gave him some ideas today on doing something. The one thing about touring the buildings that kind of stood out in my head in the high school was the science labs. And maybe possibly updating those and doing something with those. And again, you know, budget asks are exactly that. They're asks, they're not promises, they're not guarantees, but we can advocate. And I think we have a good, strong case to advocate for something like that. But there also might be needs where Dr. DeFalco might think that it's better, we can better move resources, and we'll do whatever the school administration wants to us to focus on, and we'll focus on that. So, but that's going to be coming up, and we have to turn those in fairly quickly, so we have them in the budget, as we're going to be I'll be meeting with House Ways and Means Chairman next week to advocate strongly for my amendment asks. As far as updates, as far as, I know that you've all been working very hard on the collaborative with Uxbridge, Bellingham, and the Blackstone Valley area on some of the collaboratives. I know it got a little sidetracked with COVID, but we're hoping that is going to be an exciting move forward going into next year, and really pushing programs like that. I know that the Department of Education, I know that the governor is very strongly supporting these Skills Works grants and more of them, and helping school districts that haven't applied for them lately to really advocate and push for them. I think they'll have a better chance of getting them than some other districts have gotten over the years. But the great thing about what you have here and what Dr. DeFalco has done is form a collaborative with other districts that have applied for them. Uxbridge, I know Bellingham's starting to do it, and teaming that money up together. There's nothing in the rule book that says you can't. And I think that's just a great way to utilize resources, utilize building space, utilize staffing, and to help us curve that school choice, charter school, those things that we desperately are all advocating, that we want to try to help our school districts out with. And lastly, this Sunday, we are going to, and I want to thank the administration, the school committee. We are going to be serving out of the Kennedy Elementary School meals, a little over 200 meals to Blackstone Millville residents. It's an initiative I started last year, Rising Up Initiative, and I want to thank the many art projects, and I have to just put kudos out to all the students that did them from this district. We were overwhelmed by this school district, Blackstone Millville's art projects, and we're actually going to be sharing those. We had so many of them that we're going to share them not only just with Blackstone Millville residents, we're going to share them with Uxbridge also. Good. So we're very excited about that. And some of them, I'm looking through them, and they put smiles on my faces, and I know they're going to put so many smiles on so many people's faces that we're going to be serving meals to. And I just want to thank all the townspeople that are watching, all the volunteers, the students that are going to be volunteering. I know I'm going to make my way through all 4 towns. Doing this all at the same time is a big task, but I couldn't do it without volunteers. And I always say that in our campaigns, we can spend millions of dollars on senseless mailers that nobody will read, but if I can spend maybe $5,000 putting a smile on a senior's face that hasn't seen anybody in almost a year, or somebody who's struggling right now, and there are a lot of people struggling, is well worth every dime of it. And that's what our campaign can do to give back. That's what I can do to give back. And the people have always been the focus, and I've always been an advocate of the fact that I work for the people, and I don't work for the state, or the governor, or the Speaker of the House for that matter, or a party. I work for the people who elected me. So I'm willing to take any questions. I know this is we're moving into a new area, and I just want to say, I've always said there's a light at the end of the tunnel of this pandemic. The light is here. The vaccine is here. I truly encourage everybody who wants to get the vaccine. I understand it's a choice, and I respect your choice. But if you want to get the vaccine, please sign up to get the vaccine. In a few weeks, this is going to open up to the general population by April 19th. That means that the vaccines are going to ramp up. You have an easy site here in Uxbridge. It took a lot of work and a lot of collaboration with a lot of hardworking folks to get this going. And I would say they did it because they wanted to make it easy for you to do it. And we have 3 of the best vaccines in the United States. We have the Johnson & Johnson, the Moderna, and the Pfizer. And I would say to all of you that someone who's had COVID, my whole family has had COVID. Even my 82-year-old mother said she wasn't going to die from it when she got it. She says, if I'm going to die, I'm not dying from this. I'm dying from all my other issues, not from this. And she goes, plus, if I'm gonna die, I wanna make sure it's not now because I wanna wake in a funeral. I said, you're the only person I know that would wanna wake in a funeral. But God bless her, she deserves it. If she does, she deserves her wishes. But she fought it, and I have to say that it is a tough disease, and I've lost a couple of great friends from it. And it's real, it's there, it affects people in so many different ways. But I would just say that, please, if you want to take the vaccine, please take it. It's going to be available come the 19th. Anybody 16 years and older will be able to get it. So, any questions?
Any questions? I do thank you for your support. It is noticeable. It is very noticeable in our community, and I know that I can pick up the phone when I need to, and I always get a response. So I do thank you very much for that. We are excited about the future of Blackstone Millville, and I know we're going to do an introduction, but do you want to introduce Jill?
Sure.
So they can meet. And
we have our new high school principal here this evening, Jill Fowlis. She's sitting right there, just a big wave.
Congratulations.
We're going to introduce her to the community, the community's met her actually to some extent through the process, but reintroduce her, I guess we'll say this evening to everybody, so.
Great.
So we have great hopes on the horizon.
Well, you have a great young graduate who's my chief of staff at high school that some of these folks know. And we're excited. Anything you need from us, we're there for you, and just pick up the phone, and we're excited. And one of the things I enjoy about this job, and I'm so glad we have the collaboration that we do, is when your students make it on the honor roll, or if there's something special they do, our office has access to give them. I think we got it down to a science now.
Yep.
And it's just so great during this time that parents are actually sharing it on social media and doing what they do, because they should be proud that their students are working as hard. And it doesn't matter whether every student is working hard, and we know that. And that's why to my office, it's very important whether they're on the honor roll or they've done something a little bit extra special in their school, whether it's reading day, whether it's whatever it is. We just want to make sure that our office, they know that our office recognizes that, and we appreciate that. And that's what we will. You will see me a lot. And I always say, everybody will say, do you ever sleep? And I say, no, I don't sleep. I'll sleep when I'm dead. And I'll sleep when
But will you have a funeral and a...
And I will stop working as hard as I work when I stop working as hard as I work, or when the people don't want me anymore to work as hard as I work. So, but we are here, and that's what we want to do. And we're truly focused to get back on track in the budget. We really are. So I'm hoping for a good budget week. We're going to surely advocate hard for our districts. And it's going to be interesting to see how the new ed reform is going to work in this budget coming in. But I also, what I did tell my colleagues is let's not also lose focus of what good that we have that we did learn. Maybe we need to invest more in better remote learning capabilities. Maybe that's an avenue where we have less kids being leaving this district to be homeschooled, and maybe we can actually offer some sort of classes that way for those students that want to be be taught that way, where you don't lose them in the school choice program, or you don't lose them in a program. There's things that we can do, and maybe that will also look at ways to cure snow days and things like that, that generally speaking, that we could learn from it. And I think those are great things, and we're in a 21st century computer age, and I think these kids, my daughter certainly has learned a lot more about computers than I probably wanted to her at her age, but she's going to have to. I mean, let's face it, college is going to be when she gets there, it's going to be so much more automated and computer than we think.
And
So,
expensive.
any other questions?
We just really appreciate everything, and we're looking forward to Sunday.
Sunday.
Yes.
We got a good plan. I think
The
it's
whole
going to be
family is
great.
going to be there.
Yep.
Awesome.
The whole
Awesome. We
group.
do have a lot of volunteers, which
That's
is
what I
great.
heard.
And,
That's
but you know
okay.
what?
We should be done in 11 minutes. Yeah. Just zipping it right through.
Yeah,
I met
it's
with Dan
it'll
and
be quick, but I just like the fact that we're going to have a lot of young folks,
Yep.
kids, and people volunteering. So I'd say the parents that are going to be there with them, that's great. but let them do the work. Let them know what community involvement is, and let
Yep.
them cherish
Agreed.
it, because they will appreciate it. And this generation's going to be focused on a lot more as they get older and what they've been through this past year. So this pandemic has really, certainly taught us a lot.
Well, and they haven't had a lot of opportunity to volunteer and get out there, so this is a great one for them.
Yeah,
sure.
it's definitely a different environment, but
Yep.
it's exciting, and I can assure you that we'll have all the proper protocols in place, too.
Okay.
So,
For sure.
All right.
Got a
any
good
other
plan.
questions? No?
Anybody else?
Great.
All right, thank you so
Thanks.
very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you.
Have a great night.
All right. Next on our agenda is to figure out how we wrap up this academic year on calendar issues.
Yes. So in your packet, you should have received a copy of the school year 2021 calendar. This has gone through more reinventions. We are at our last iteration. We certainly are hoping that we will not get any more snow. But even if we do, we should be good. But what we are looking to do, because if you recall, we actually did take one snow day, and we did one full remote learning day due to weather this school year. What we are looking to do is move that makeup day, which would have been June 21st, which is a Monday, to actually move the makeup day to May 28th, which was scheduled as a day off for students. So we're looking to move the 21st of June to the 28th of May, so that the school year can end on Friday, June 18th, and not have to bring the students back in for a half-day Monday. So we're looking for the committee to approve that.
And the 28th would be a full day?
Full day,
Okay.
Friday, May 28th.
I'll entertain a motion to make that shift, to move a full learning day to May 28th.
So moved.
Moved by Tammy, second by Jack. Any discussion?
I just have a question. Is this union approved or?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. All unions approved? Whoever has to approve it?
Unit A has taken a vote, C has not taken a vote yet, but I have discussed it with Julie.
Okay.
Any other?
It was a work day for them. It was PD.
So in the MOA, we moved those 6 hours to do after school because of the different and additional parent conferences they needed to do, so it was scheduled as a day off.
Okay.
Yep. So it will be a work day now.
Hearing no, oops. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so moved.
Thank you.
And I will turn it over to Dr. DeFalco.
Thank you. Good evening again, everybody. Excited to be here tonight. The first item under my report is a formal reintroduction or introduction for those who have not had the pleasure of meeting Ms. Fowlis, who is coming to us from Munson Public Schools. She is going to be taking over as the new principal at Blackstone Millville Regional High School after a very thorough, probably the most thorough process you've been through in terms of a search like that. But we felt that structure was really important to make sure that we got feedback from everybody that would be working and interacting with the high school principal. And I will tell you, not to embarrass you, Jill, but it was a very strong sense that she was absolutely the right pick for the high school at this time. Whether you talk to students, staff, families, there was a very strong feeling that Ms. Fowlis is the right person to lead our high school to the next level. And I can tell you, after my significant amount of time spending with Jill, I could not agree more. So we're really thrilled that she's here tonight. So thank you. You want to say a few words to the committee? It'd be great.
Very much. That's a tough act to follow up. No, I just will give you a little background. I'm originally from Western New York. I'm a graduate from UMass of 95 and 2000. I left New York and broke my mother's heart, and I've been here ever since. So I consider myself from Massachusetts. I have a wonderful husband of almost 20 years. who has been so supportive through this whole thing and the whole process, and so I'm grateful for him. I'm the proud mother of 3 children, soon to be the proud mother of 440 students. I began my teaching career teaching history, so if you want to talk history, I'm the one who wants to be in those classrooms and talk about that. I came to Munson in 2010. I actually, in cleaning some of my files, found my application, so I keep everything, evidently. And in the past 5 years, I've acted in the capacity as an administrator and left the classroom, which brings me to Blackstone Millville. I definitely want to thank everyone in the interview process, particularly Matt, for leading us through this. It was evident from the very first interview where Jane and other parents spoke so passionately and how important this decision was to the fact that you would do this a second time. And I'm thrilled and to be able to lead this proud community. And it's definitely a community that is extremely proud. And that came through in every interview process that I went through. I am looking forward to sharing my energy and enthusiasm for learning. It is who I am. It is my identity. It's in my soul. And to have that opportunity to share that with staff and students is, I can't even express the words to you. I'm so thrilled. I welcome the opportunity to continue the already great work under Dr. DeFalco's leadership. All of the things, since I've shared this information, I've had people who know people who know people who just sing everyone's praises. So, and I feel very, very lucky to begin this new chapter after 24 years in education. I feel like it's the first day of teaching again, and I'm so energized and revitalized and grateful to be a charger. So thank you very much for entrusting your students to me. I promise you that I will take very good care of them, and I look forward to working with all of you, the administrative team, the staff, and meeting the kids. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any
Welcome.
questions?
Anybody have any questions? Just welcome.
Welcome, we're very, very happy to meet you.
Thank you. Exciting. And lots of great things, because even Sunday, I was like, oh, I just love that. Anytime you can highlight what the kids are doing in such a positive light, and especially during these dark times, it's great. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're
Thank
looking
you.
forward to it. Very much.
Jordan Upward.
Yep.
So moving on with our good news, we're going to ask the other Jill, PG, to join us up front and talk a little bit about our Department of Education monitoring report. As the school committee is aware, we were in the midst of the pandemic. The Department of Education decided to continue monitoring school systems and going through with their process, although from afar. So it was a little bit different in terms of how we did the interviews and how they did their review of the system. And we are very pleased with the results, and I know Ms. PG was a really big part of that, and a big part of that process. So Jill, if you want to share some highlights with the committee and the community, that would be great.
Sure. So I think you all know that we actually are going through 3 reviews and audits this year. One, we've already done the educational stability. We're in full implementation and compliance. We have early childhood at the end of the year, which is just an indicator, but we had a tiered focus monitoring this year. And just so you know, every 3 years, the Department of Ed comes out and they do an assessment, and they look at civil rights and special ed. So this cycle is considered what was considered the old mid-cycle, but now they're called tiered focus monitoring, and we were considered in Group B. Group A is kind of what the full evaluation is, and Group B is halfway through. They take focus areas and they look at those. We originally, our monitoring was due in June, but they did graciously move it out to October. So it was due October 30th, which we did submit that on time with the department. So like I said, we were Group B, and there's universal standards that go in there. And it was, under B, they look at licensure professional development. They look at parent, student, and community engagement, facilities and classroom, basic oversight of programs, time in learning, and equal access. And within that audit, there are 11 what are called SEs, which are special education requirements, selected requirements, and there are 18 for civil rights that took place.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and this is only the mid-cycle. This is the smaller version. And within those SCs, you can always look them up, but it was things like, they looked at all of licensures for the director, for the teachers, for the related service providers. They looked at our interpreter services, all the interpretations that we do for families that need a language other than English. They look at all of our professional development, both in special education and in civil rights. They looked at normally they would come out and walk our facilities, but this time we had maps for them and everything was labeled because they want to look at where are our programs located. So they were able to do that through all of our maps. And our principals were great. They got all of that together for us. They also look at our handbooks, our bullying and intervention, student discipline, non-discrimination. So there's a lot that goes into that. Those are just, some of the few that are in there.
So Jill, do they look at maps or buildings just to make sure that the students aren't isolated or they have access to
No one's in a closet,
entrance?
no one's just in a corner, they're same facilities, it's equitable.
Yep.
So we were able to show that across the district for both facilities and classrooms.
Great.
So in this, there are kind of two phases to the monitoring. One of them is a self-assessment phase that we, as a district, go through, and we look at all of our documentation for civil rights that we're focusing on, as well as special education, as well as some other specific requirements they may give to us. And upon completion of all of those, we individually submit for each SE all the documentation that's required in that area. So it is a lot of hours, a lot of time, but it's just showing them all the work that we're doing, and then they review that. The second part of that is they actually, again, they called it the on-site verification, but of course it was all virtual, and that's where they may say, we'd like to see additional documents. They review all the surveys, and they go through the interviews, they review the floor plans, ask us questions at that time, and they go through everything if they have any questions or they need any more clarification. What I will say is the results of our mid-cycle was that the department found that our district to be in compliance with all the criteria monitored during the TFM review. There is no corrective action at this time. In all areas, both the 11 in special ed and the 18 in civil rights are considered implemented, which means the requirement is substantially met in all important aspects. So it was really nice to see that. They acknowledged.
And I'm assuming that's not typical. Like, I'm assuming they usually find something.
Yes. I've been here a really long time, and, there's always something they're looking for.
Right.
But, everything they ask for, and again, it is little things. It's very focused, certain areas, but even with just having a mid-cycle with the 11 special ed and 18 civil rights, it's still quite a bit.
It's still a lot, yeah.
Yeah, not as much as a full, but.
I noticed they speak to a parent with someone, a
They
student
did.
with it. Did they pick or you pick?
So they asked us to pick a parent who had a good overview of the
Okay.
district, so we're able to pick a parent who actually had a child in the district since elementary, middle, and through high school.
Wow, oh, great.
And now up, so they were able to get the entire perspective of all the way through.
That's great.
Yeah, one of the things I noticed about the process, and I actually want to thank Jill as well, because all of the work that I've done in this area prior was on turnaround plans. So I always did monitoring from a level 4 or level 5 receivership lens. This was very different. This was very, very different. And I found that the feedback we got from our two reviewers, Michelle and Michael, were that they learned a lot from us. And so the way that we explained our work was very comprehensive. So while they were looking for little, like almost like sound bites of what does civil rights look like in terms of curriculum review, they heard about curriculum review process, selection, data cycles, data analysis, student action plans. I think they were like, whoa. So we tried to explain to them the full kind of picture of how we, God bless you, of how we do our work here, which was interesting. It was a really different process for me, and I appreciate your help, Jill, kind of walking through that.
Yeah.
Any questions on that?
I have a quick question, Jill. So on the front page, I guess it's kind of the front page of the actual report, where it says tier level 2, is that assigned after they do the review and then they say that you're not in the greater risk?
That they assigned us, we were B Tier 2 to start this whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because when I'm looking at page 3, it says, it kind of defines the tiers.
Correct.
So that's just based on some data beforehand that they say you're not in a high-risk
Correct.
category?
And we're not.
Okay.
We weren't before, and we're even in a better spot now. But
Okay.
remember,
I just wasn't sure where, at what point that's
picked.
designated, yeah.
Because remember, when they look at those tiering, they're looking at all the data we submit as a district when it comes to attendance and dropout and all of that information.
Okay.
Because those are some of the things they look at here.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And we didn't have a lot of extra, so there were some schools that were designated for additional SEs, but we were not found to have any issues based on the data we submitted, so. that was a
Great,
good thing, yeah.
great job.
Great job. That's, I'm sure,
I can appreciate
tremendous
it's not
burden
easy.
off your shoulders, but a lot of work, so it's very much appreciated.
But I did tell them, 3 in a year is a lot. Like,
Yeah.
we need to reorganize that, because.
That's a
yeah,
lot.
This was number 2,
Yeah.
this year.
That's a lot.
Thank you, Jill.
Anyone else? All right, thanks, Jill.
Great work.
We're gonna have nicknames now that we have to pick some amongst yourselves.
The next item under my report is I actually would like to take a few minutes and give an update to the committee and the community around the removal of our hybrid model. I've got some great news to share this evening about where we are with our plans. As you know, we've done a tremendous amount of work to move into the next phase of our reopening. We are also excited that we have just about 100% of our surveys back. Parents were super helpful. They were really, really great about getting the information back that we needed so that we could start planning. And those few that we didn't get, got a quick outreach from the principal to find out if everything was okay and what they were thinking and where they were looking to go in terms of the next phase with our students. So let me just share a few highlights so everybody has a sense of kind of where we are with this. So at this point, our elementary schools will be reopening, as everybody knows, on Monday for grades 4 and 5. Of course, PK through 3 have been with us since the very beginning, 5 full days. Again, 100% of our families have returned to their surveys, and 100% of our hybrid families are returning to the classroom. So we're excited about that. We're looking forward to having those students back with us. The model that the school committee heard at our last meeting is actually already in play, which is kind of interesting. I saw it yesterday visiting the complex. Some of the classrooms are already set up, similarly in Millville, and they've got the kids already spread out, so the teachers are already kind of practicing and doing drills with half the kids. So they've got like a quarter group in one room and a quarter in the other room, so to speak, and they're kind of going back and forth and working it out, which I think is really smart to get ahead of the full return on Monday. The desks are staying around 5 to 6 feet. I think most of them are at 6 feet apart, which is great that we're able to do that. And I believe all but one of our partner teachers is hired. The few individuals I've had a chance to meet with are super energetic, really excited. I thought they were going to jump through the Zoom link at me as we were talking about this opportunity for them. So that's what we're looking for. We want that energy, that excitement. So we're thrilled to have them on board. And actually, I'm going to ask Ms. Schaefer and Dr. Rumka to just join us up front if you could. Just do a very quick update on the transportation piece, because I do know there are some changes. Interestingly enough, we actually have less drop-off and pickup than we had with our current model. More parents are opting for transportation buses at the elementary level. So I thought if you just give a quick snapshot of where that is, so that everybody has a general sense.
Yes, thank you for coming to do that tonight.
Oh, I was going to take off my mask, but I shouldn't take off my mask. Bad move. So we sent out a transportation survey to see what parents want to, actually we sent it out to K-5, yep, because of the change of the bus protocol, and we wanted to make sure that some of the family, if they want to switch over to bus, they have the opportunity to do that. So we actually had more than we expected. So at the complex, right now we have 2 parent pickup, and I see Carrie laughing. Because one of them is like, one way, you come in, you pick up your child, you leave. The other one is like, you get there first, and you're gonna pick up your child, and you're gonna fight to get out. So we're changing that. And the reason I brought that up is because we have more parents going on, kids going on the bus, so even combining AFM is pretty much the same number of pickup. So I don't know if you want to add anything.
So at Millville, everybody knows at the beginning of the year was quite the disaster because we had the boiler project going on, so our flow of traffic did not go very well. It took us a lot longer than expected, but it's done. So we use the back now for our drop-off and pickup, so we are so much faster, probably about 5 to 10 minutes faster. But we also have about 15 to 20 families that are going to now be taking the bus, and a lot of them are younger students, which do take a little longer to get in the car, to buckle them up, to take them out, to get all their stuff together. So that will probably pick up our process a little bit faster too. And we did originally ask the families for 4th and 5th grade if they wanted to remain their parent pickup or bus, whatever they were. But then when we shared the new guidance, we figured to send it out to them as well again, even though it may have been that question again, but we wanted to make sure that with the new guidance, they were aware that the windows would be open 3 inches, that if it was raining, they would still be open at minimum every other seat. So we wanted to make sure the families were aware of that. But still, I mean, I think we had, majority of ours are staying, and I think I have about 15 to 20 families to help with that. So that will also make our pickup line a little faster.
And I do want to add one thing, moving AFM over to JFK pickup, we did ask the town to open up the Goulet field parking, and so any overflow, they will be parking over there.
That's great, that's helpful, okay, just in case, right? Yeah.
Just in case.
How will that work? Will they move into the circle when it's available? Is that what
So
you're-
we'll have a staff member on top of the hill coming in, the entranceway, and when the entranceway, the driveway is full, that they have to go down to the Goulet Field, we have staff member over there with the radio. So once, some of the cars move along, they're gonna say, send me 3 more cars, send me 4 more cars. We did that beginning of the year, so we're familiar with the process.
We also will have additional support from our police department that will help out with the traffic for the first few days. Officer Shepard has been really helpful at Millville, and he's recommitted to that, and Officer Loudon. And so actually, we've got a meeting with them tomorrow to talk about a few things, but their sleeves are rolled up and they're ready to go. So they'll help with that.
That's great.
Do we?
And I have moved my 7 o'clock meeting, so nobody has to sit the phones for me.
Or Jane.
Do we know how many students per seat on the buses we're gonna have?
So at the elementary level, the guidance from DESI is up to 3, but I don't know the numbers off the top of my head for each bus, but there weren't a ton more to add to each bus.
Matt, do you have any idea?
I'm sorry, I just zoned out for a second. I do apologize.
The busing, how many people are on the bus, the seats? Do you know how many people are on each seat?
So for elementary school, it is up to 3 students. For middle and high school, it's up to 2.
Do we have the numbers? Do we know how many people are on each?
I don't have the numbers
Okay.
specifically for the bus.
We'll get those from Neil.
I can try.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
And we do have, it's nice because we have had families that have been on the waiting list to get on a bus, so they're super excited now because now their children can get on the bus instead of, having to drive them every day. So. Actually, we have some dedicated parents there. Some of them are there at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon waiting for their kids to get out at 3:05, so that's dedication.
Great.
Well, that's wanting to be first in line.
I always did the approach of being the last in line, so I
That's what
could
I
stay
go with.
home an extra hour of peace, catch the end, you're not late, the teachers aren't talking about you, and you still have your kid. I don't know, that was my approach. Enjoy the last 15 minutes at home instead of sitting in your hot car or your cold car. Or, it's never right in New England, right? So I was the last person picking up my kids when I had to pick them up.
It's fun to watch when they're done, because they don't think that I can see them, and I see them outside, like, playing with the cones of the teachers. That's actually
And
pretty funny.
dancing, they were dancing.
I was gonna
the
say, I
other
think
day.
I saw a
and
video of
skipping,
dancing
yeah,
last week.
it's pretty funny, actually.
But, no,
Good teamwork.
yes.
Thank you, ladies.
For what it's worth, I had student came back a week early. So he walked in, and I was walking by him. He said, "Ms. Ramka, can I just tell you something?" I said, "Sure, go ahead." He said, "I am so happy to be back in school."
Yeah.
So that's hit me, like,
Yep.
yes, we're doing the right thing. They need to come back.
They do, yeah.
Thank you for that.
We are. We
Our
have to,
teachers are dying to have them back, because they've already got the rooms, the
Yeah.
second room set up, they're ready to go. They're ready for them to be back.
yeah.
You know, because you can't show a child the problem over the computer.
Nope.
So if they're having difficulty, you can't reach through the screen, and they really want to be able to help the kids as much as they can.
Yep.
So.
We can't wait for Monday, for sure. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great work. Thanks, ladies. And then just quickly, at the middle school, all of our family surveys have been returned as well. And it's looking at this time that we have about 13 of our hybrid families that have opted for full remote out of all of them. So we're really pleased about that. We were able to really minimize any schedule changes. I know that was an important piece for everybody. So thankfully, we were able to be able to do that. There are some changes, but there were conversations and with families, with administration or guidance to make sure that they are aware. But the changes have been minimal, but there were some. I think we had about 12 students that needed a change. And a lot of that was a result from the being in hybrid to a full remote. We had to shift some of the classes for those students. But there was a conversation, and from what I understood about them, the discussions went well, and folks seemed to understand, being the parents anyhow, about the changes. At 4 feet of separation between desks, we're between 17 and 23 students in a class. So even with that, the numbers are still very, very healthy in terms of class size. And then, of course, last but not least, our high school, which we're phasing in at the end because it's a bit trickier of a building to transition back given the nature and complexity of the schedule, class offerings, mixed grade classes. We have heard back from all of our families at this point, and we are around 15 that have moved from hybrid to full remote. So again, the numbers are really low. And I think that speaks volumes, frankly, about our community, our families wanting to get back to school, which we're really excited about. The class sizes there will range from 18 to 22 students, and that's at 4 feet apart. Right now, it's looking as though out of our 140 uniquely taught courses, so there's 140 sections of taught courses, there are 5 that we think will need to stream and have kids in front of them. That's it. That's a really small number. So a big shout out to the staff at the high school, the guidance staff, administration, teaching staff. I mean, everybody's been working together to make that happen because it's just complicated. It's different. So could not be more pleased with how that has worked out, and a big thank you to our faculty for that. So another, I think, important piece to share, you may be wondering what do the full remote numbers look like now? So to give everybody a sense, we have a total students now in our school system that are going to be full remote, about 330. So out of all, currently about 1,600 students. So about 1,300 are in person. And again, the numbers that were added to that, there were none added from the from the elementary level, excuse me. Again, a little over, I think about 15 at the middle school, and similarly at the high school, about 15. So the rest will be back with us in our classrooms.
That's awesome.
Which is great.
Jason, can I ask a clarifying question?
Of course.
May I ask a clarifying question? When you say only 5 classes need to stream, how many full remote students do we have at the high school? So there's only 5 classes that have full remote kids? Or that have to do both?
The room and Zoom thing, do both.
Okay, so there are some that are just doing
a remote.
Google Meet or remote?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, how did we do that? Like, what are we doing with these kids?
The goal was to try to combine, if they could, the full remotes into the sections that were there.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was a lot for them to comb through and try to reset that.
So 5 have the dual, and then we have some
that are just
Each
remote.
doing each, okay.
You got it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anyone else? Okay.
Transportation has been figured out. Routes went out today. We only had to modify the secondary routes, so those are mailed out to all families. Matt, thank you for you and Neil's and the principal's support getting that done. Elementary routes are staying the same, which is great, so we didn't have to make any changes there. All of the lunches have been worked out, which is some good news. So we've got a plan for how to get the students safely through lunch. So that's in very good shape. Frankly, I think we are just ready now and waiting for the kids to return and for us to put our final touches on the scheduling and getting the room set up at the middle and high school secondary level. And I think we're in very good shape.
Great.
Along this,
Wait,
I'm sorry.
hold on 1 second. Go ahead, Aaron.
I just have a question. I'm writing it down because I keep forgetting it. So you were talking about the 4 feet and the 6 feet and so will close contact still be handled the same with the full return? Where elementary right now, if it's a positive in a classroom, the full class is going home on close contact? And then I think middle school and high school were seating assignments, and it would, so I guess I have 2 questions. Is it still being handled the same? And with everyone coming back, are there still seat assignments, high school and middle school? They're not just walking in and picking a
Correct.
seat that day?
Correct. So one of the conversations so the first question, is it being handled the same? Yes, we're still, and Karen can certainly speak to that. We're going to do an update in our COVID handbook in a couple minutes. But yep, so we'll still be following the same protocols for that, the close contact protocols. At the middle school level, we were having some conversation about keeping, because it's all teams, so the kids are with the same kind of cluster all day. So we were talking about keeping their layout exactly the same. So if you sit next to Matt and Jane and Carrie in one class, you'll sit next to Matt, Jane, and Carrie in the next class.
Oh,
So
those
that-
poor kids.
So that we don't want to, I know,
Is that happening, or
or
that's
Jason,
just-
who was,
Only
you
if they're
know,
sitting next to me constantly. Yeah.
stuck in the middle here. But the place, we can't do that as the high school, because the high school schedule, the kids shift, every class is different. Seating charts.
To the same point, I can say that we will still be maintaining the assigned seating on the buses as well, so that we'll
In the
be
CAF.
able to identify. So we'll be able to identify any close contacts and using the same radius with respect to the buses in the event that there's any close contacts needed. to be
So
identified.
with the new setup for the partner teachers and is it one room?
Yeah, it's
It's
one
the
room.
room that
Yes.
student was in, and the other room would not be quarantined?
If the student's not in that other room, there wouldn't be a reason to do that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? All right.
Okay. The second piece of that report is really, I want to give an update and it's more of a plea of sorts. This year we know has been tough across the board. We just had to report to the Department of Education in our March data our chronically absent students, which are those students that are missing 10% more of the school year. At this point, which is 12 days or more, we were over 20%. And those are not students who are in quarantine. Now, there could be, we're combing through everything now to make sure we've got everything right. There could be a student that may have missed, virtual homeroom, but then attended the rest of the class. So we're combing through all the records to make sure that we don't have any errors there. So I'm not going to pretend that there may not be some errors from that. But even with that margin of error, that is still a very high number. I did send the individual lists to the principals, and the feedback that I received from each of our 4 principals was, oh, yes, this is the group we've been working with this year. So on one hand, that's, it's good news to the fact that, the principals are on it, the guidance staff are on it, and everybody's already working with the families that needs to be to try to, re-engage the students, get them to engage and come to school, whether it's virtual or in person. But I guess to our families watching, this is really a partnership, and we need everybody's help. As we return from this and we try to reset, with our students and staff, it's going to be hard to mitigate and close some of those gaps, the learning and the social emotional behavioral gaps that will have been developed from this, year-long journey. But with that, it's really important that our parents continue to partner with us and we continue to partner with our parents to get our students to engage. It's really, really important. So I just wanted to put that out to everyone this evening. I get it too. I have a 9th grader at home who would love to stay in his slippers and have a coffee and do laundry between classes. I have this argument with him every day. So I truly do understand as a parent. The structure itself is just hard. And it leads to some habits that, at least in the DeFalco household, were not necessarily good ones, as rigid as we tried to be about our routines at home. But, I really do extend a hand to parents. We're here to help, lean on us, engage with us. We really need to get the students back to work, so to speak. So I guess I will leave it at that. But it is definitely a community issue at this point.
Yeah. We need them in front of us.
We do, absolutely. The next item under my report is really just a forecast of our return and recovery plan. I think we do need a better name for that, but I'm not sure what to call it yet. So, and really what I want to do is just take a minute and kind of highlight where are we going. So at this point, we're at the end of March. As you're probably aware, the leadership team, our staff are already thinking quite a bit about July, August, September, October, and thinking about how do we get, through the summer, utilize that time in a real meaningful way to help to begin supporting our students differently. Because we know we've got a lot of ground to cover, not just academically, but from a social, emotional, and behavioral perspective as well. So I just want to highlight quickly tonight some of the pieces of the puzzle that we're putting in place. A lot of details still, and there'll be a lot more information to come over the next few months. But just to give a forecast for the committee and our community, starting the week of April 5th, we will be placing a tutor at the Boys and Girls Club for after school. They'll be expanding their offering of support to 4th and 5th grade families. And I know over time, eventually, they're hoping to bring middle school families back. So we have posted for a tutor that we will have there 5 days a week for 2 hours, 3:30 to 5:30, just to help kids with their homework. No specific tutorials of sorts, but really just to make sure that students have the homework help that they need as they're, starting to kind of work their way back through this. I know in a minute I'll ask Jill to come and just give us a quick kind of overview on ESY, but I know Jill and the special education department are putting together a very robust ESY program, and that conversations have been underway for a couple of weeks now on that. Speaking of the Boys and Girls Club, we are partnering with them, and as Rep. Soda mentioned earlier, the Blackstone Valley Superintendent Group has grown a very tight bond, frankly, over the past few years. And so in my meetings and conversations with the folks at the Boys and Girls Club, we learned that we have about 100 Bellingham students that attend summer programming there as well. So I have partnered with the Bellingham superintendent and his team, and we will both be putting staff at the Boys and Girls Club this summer, and we'll be building literacy and numeracy stations into the student rotations. But we're going to make it engaging. It's going to be fun. We're looking at math games or read alouds and creative writing prompts. We want the kids to really want to be doing the work. We don't want it to be monotonous, open your workbook to page 10 kind of stuff, or go on to iExcel. Like, we are trying to get away from that. We want the kids to have fun with reading, have fun with writing, have fun with math while practicing skills. So we're super excited about that we'll be able to develop that partnership even further and actually have staff there that will be built into their summer program. Last year, to give you a sense, they had about 250 students, and that was with the restrictions. So they're hoping this year they'll be able to open up fully to the 350 that they typically have. That's a lot of students we can get. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of students we can get, and they tend to stay for the summer. So if we can grab those kids there and get them hooked and get them excited about reading, writing, doing some math, making it fun and engaging. So we're going to be looking for some, super high energy staff that want to do that work for this summer. The other side of that, one of my kind of wonders is what will it be like when you are a 10-year-old and you're around 349 other kids all of a sudden, right? When you've been at home in your room for 13 months, or at that point it'll be longer. Obviously getting back to school will be a little bit helpful with that, but so we are also going to be placing a clinician there, one of our counselors, to do two things. One, to do, again, using that kind of station-based concept, running some social-emotional and behavioral workshops with the kids around developing, relationships, maintaining friendships, healthy self-esteem, some of those issues, managing, conflict, and then also working with them in their afternoon block, which is when kids tend to, I think, to use kind of their explanation, they tend to melt down a bit. It's been a long day, it's hot, and so we're looking to be able to provide to them some support around conflict resolution and helping kids through some of that. So we're really excited about that. We're also excited to be working with Bellingham. I think that's going to be a very cool partnership. That will be, Bellingham Public Schools, BMR, and Boys and Girls Club.
Nice.
I think it's pretty awesome. From there, we are in the process now of utilizing our middle of the year data, our bottom 25% of student performance data, and working with the instructional coaches, we are developing essentially an August Institute. We're going to give folks July to just breathe and kind of catch their breath, except of course with those that are in the Boys and Girls Club and that are in a formal program. But we're looking to do our summer a little bit different. And instead of the old, we're going to start after 4th of July and go to the end of July, which doesn't tend to draw great attendance from anybody, frankly, because people are burnt out. We're going to do a jump start, and we're going to actually start the school year early for students. And we're going to start it gradually and kind of increase as we go, but we're going to be looking at very skill-focused, very small group tutoring. Not traditional summer school with 13 kids in a class that all failed the same course and they're taking it again. Right, that's the definition of insanity, just doing the same thing again and we think we're going to get different outcomes. So we're actually looking at some really interesting research that was just published around tutoring and how to really get the most kind of bang for your buck with that. So I'm working with the coaches on that, and we're really excited about the idea of really getting those just few targeted skills, do a couple things really well, and really look at, what are the prerequisite skills we need those students to master and be prepared for the next grade level. So that is coming as well. And then we are going to be applying for a state opportunity, which is almost like a jump start to the school year that the Department of Education, it'll be our staff, it'll be our programming, but they are going to pay for it if we are awarded the grant. And similarly, they're going to ask us to do some small group tutoring work, particularly around literacy and math. But also with some enrichments and some project-based learning. They have some different kind of guidelines to it. So what we're going to be very thoughtful about is which groups of students are in which kind of buckets of tutoring and support, so that we can try to make sure that everybody gets what they need. And so we're excited because that particular school year kind of pre-work has to happen the week before the kids return. So we'll have a very targeted, intense session just for a small group of students that will need that support as well. I think the piece I'm probably most looking forward to, the school committee will see from us at the April meeting a job description for review and hopefully approval for a district social worker.
Oh, thank God.
We want to bring that person on immediately, frankly, and we want that individual to start the work and working with those families that really need that care coordination of service, so we can grab those kids now and start doing the work with them over the summer, helping. And if it's not any of our summer programming, that's okay. But where are they going to be? What are they going to be doing? And making sure that all of their needs are met and that we can have essentially a continuity of services for our most at-risk students and families during the summer months. So we're very hopeful about that, and more to come there, but I wanted to give that a forecast as well.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Tammy?
You alluded to summer school. At the high school level, what do we have a plan for any high school students who may not have successfully met standards in past classes and earned credits, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely. So we're still kind of teasing that out because we're looking at the middle and high school level. How do we make sure, see, what has happened in the past, kids have essentially had an opportunity to go on to like credit recovery through Eduseer, which actually is really, I don't know if you've ever gone into that platform. It's really hard. Like the actual platform itself is not easy to navigate. So what we are looking to do is try to find almost like a balance where if we need, and we will, have kids that need a formal credit recovery, that's fine, but let's do that with the support. So if we have, for instance, I'll make up numbers, like 10 kids that need Algebra 1, if we're gonna run a program like that, then let's make sure we have a tutor there working with them. And that's actually instructing them on the material as they go. So it's not just, here's your Algebra 1 Eduseer course. You know, take it or don't. So we're looking now at a couple of different options. Hopefully Jill will be part of that conversation as we kind of move towards the summer months, but. So I don't have a definitive answer yet, Tammy. It's still kind of under construction but I know we want to do it a little bit different with more support.
Okay. And that's high school and middle school?
Yes.
Anyone else?
I have a question.
Okay.
I do, Jane.
Oh, yep, sorry.
I'm just going to start at the top of my notes. There's a lot of information here, and I really appreciate it. So you said the week of April 5th, there will be a tutor at the Boys and Girls Club. Is that a volunteer? Are those NHS students? Is it a paid staff?
No, it's going to be a paid staff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it one or more than, or is it?
So we're looking for just one position at this point, and it will depend on, numbers. I don't know what the numbers are going to look like yet. So we thought, why don't we just start with one and see how that goes.
And then the summer BMR Bellingham tutors and staff, are those teachers, paras?
Yep, great question. So right now we're looking at a literacy teacher, a math teacher, and a clinician. And they won't necessarily be there for the full day. The way that the club works, they have run different stations.
Yeah.
So it'll be at certain times of the day. So that is what BMR is going to be putting forward. When I actually have my meeting tomorrow with Bellingham to finalize their piece. My sense is they will probably mirror what we're going to be bringing forward as well. So it's a lot. I mean, 300. It's a lot of kids. So
it is.
3 people aren't going to cover. Won't cover that.
But hopefully it's a current staff and someone they're familiar face for the kids.
Absolutely. And I know that the principals have been just kind of having discussions with staff that might be interested in some summer work. Right. And obviously we'll put it out to everybody, of course. But.
Thank you. That's a lot of good information.
Those are going to be the brave souls that decide to work this summer. I work almost every summer, and I'm like, I am not working 1 extra minute this summer.
Believe it or not, we actually have people who are super interested. And I will say the brilliance of the partner teacher piece is we did some really awesome recruiting. Yeah. We have some super energetic, a lot of young energy, a lot of enthusiasm, and a lot of those individuals are interested. So that's great.
Well, and I think it's really important to note especially the return in the school part of taking July, breathe.
Yep.
Everybody breathe.
That's the plan. So there'll be a lot more to come on that, but I just wanted to give a heads up to everybody.
Get us ready.
A sense of where we're going. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Karen, updated COVID handbook. Do you want to join us up front and talk us through some of the changes in the packet? And
I can't keep hiding out over here in the corner.
No.
That would be no.
I like my little corner.
Thanks for being here.
Hopefully my glasses won't fog up too much and I can read this. So in the document from the COVID handbook, the first one that needs to be changed would be classroom procedures and protocols, and 6 feet needs to be changed to at least 3 feet and ideally 6 feet. As Jason said, we're trying to not even get to the 3 feet, but I don't know if, if there is going to be a classroom in the high school that may need that to fit everyone. So I figured it was best to write it that way. Alternative classroom settings, also minimum of 3 feet and ideally 6 feet. In number 6, COVID-19 exposure positive test. DPH and CDC have said that if individuals are fully vaccinated at least 14 days prior to an exposure and they are symptom-free, they do not need to quarantine. If they should develop symptoms, then they would need to test and quarantine. And that would be during that full 14 days post-exposure. Any questions on that?
Karen, from a school point of view, how are you and other nurse teachers, is that? Do you get the paperwork for when people are vaccinated or when people have positive? Do they have to prove this somehow?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they would have to provide proof or they would have to quarantine.
Okay.
And then with social distancing, again, a minimum of 3 feet and ideally 6 feet. I also added in that staff should maintain a distance of, maintain 6 feet of distance between themselves and students and other staff as much as possible, just to have that written there. And staff and students do need to maintain 6-foot distancing when masks are not worn, such as during mass breaks or while eating. And that is it for the changes.
Any questions for Karen?
The current CDC guideline is 3 feet, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So 6 feet's cautionary at this point with a mask.
Isn't it with a
correct?
mask?
With a mask.
It's, if you can do 6 feet, then that's great, but 3 feet is the minimum standard.
So I just have a question, and maybe this would have been more appropriate with your return. So starting next week with the elementary school, will there be like a refresher on hand washing, like mask break times, hand washing, put a time put aside for hand washing, just to get everyone into a new routine? And if that wasn't being considered, could we?
No, sure,
And
absolutely.
as each building returns?
Yeah, I think there'll need to be almost a reset with everybody,
Yeah,
when
like
they're back in, this is how it
First week of
will work.
school reset.
Yeah, absolutely. Jade, is it okay to mention here?
Yep, no, I was
Okay,
going to
yeah.
ask you yep.
So there's another piece we need to discuss that is not reflected in the packet, but I think is an important item to address this evening, which is the governor's new travel policy, or lack thereof, for that matter, however you want to say that. I do think it's important to mention because we have vacation coming, April vacation coming soon, and I know that families and staff are going to be looking to travel. And I will say right up front, I was very concerned when the governor released his travel advisory because it felt to me that we went from a significant level of
0 to 60.
protection, yep, and down to almost nothing, and that was concerning, particularly because our students aren't vaccinated, and the adults are, but the kids aren't, and so. I've heard from families as recent of this afternoon, frankly, asking some questions about that, wanting to know, you know, when is our policy going to be updated? They're looking to plan travel and do things. So I do think we need to have that conversation, because our handbook outlines the old policy. And of course, now that policy has been changed to, you know, essentially it's an advisory, right? It's recommended, but it's not a requirement. And so I think we need to have a discussion about that this evening, because I am concerned, particularly about April vacation. I know a lot of people are traveling all over the place, and I get it. I do. I get it. People want to get out, they want to do things, and I understand. But I do want to say that when people come back, and, you know, even with adults that are vaccinated, the students aren't. And I think we need to remember that. The kids are not vaccinated. Yes, they'll be masked, and they'll be, you know, distancing and all the social provisions, social distancing provisions we need to put in place, but I am concerned about that. I am, you know, the data is not conclusive of whether or not adults can carry it, even if they are vaccinated. So I'm worried about that. So, you know, I think we should have a discussion this evening about what we can do to, you know, move forward with our policy there.
So,
do we have what it currently reads?
Yeah, I have it somewhere.
I have the new
Seeing
travel.
if it was in here.
I can hand out.
No, it's not in your packet.
It's not part of our COVID thing, thank you.
I did make a copy for everybody of, oh, please, that'd be great, Matt, thank you. I did make a copy of the new travel advisory for everybody, so you would see what the new one is.
And so in the new one, if people are vaccinated, they can return to whatever. If the people are not vaccinated, they can return if they get a test, which we all know when we had this discussion, similar, you know, being tested to return is not necessarily an easy thing. But I guess my concern is an ethical one. You know, I know that I have received my first vaccine. I have my first shot. And I will tell you, sitting there after I got my shot, I felt this incredible sense of relief. I did. I felt this huge, like, oh, thank God. You know, a little prayer, a little like, oh my God, almost to the point of teary. However, I still felt an obligation to protect those around me. My child is not vaccinated. We are still practicing the same cautions we practiced before. You know, we have a little small group of people that we have seen. We are not going to family gatherings. We are not celebrating Easter. And I am tremendously concerned about this kind of vaccination doesn't equal freedom of masks off. It just, you know, it just means that you are a little safer. It doesn't necessarily mean the people around you are a little safer. And I am concerned about folks going off on Easter weekend and April vacation and coming back to full school and full classroom. And if they do travel out of state, I guess I would like to see them follow the advisory. I would have preferred to have the old rules in place partially, but they're not. And so I would prefer to see them follow the advisory, but I spoke with Jason this afternoon, and I would like to see us work really hard to have an option for those who have to get tested to make it a little bit easier for them. So I don't know if.
Yes, so what we would be asking are for families, staff member, even if anybody that goes away out of state, when they return, to get tested before coming back to school. And for some, that might be a challenge, and I know this was a intense discussion after we did the same kind of piece with athletics, but we can absolutely help families sign up, register for a test. We have an obligation to the families that haven't been vaccinated yet, that won't be, frankly, and they're still not going anywhere, and to all of the students, to just make sure that when we return from vacation, that we're keeping everybody as safe as we can. What we want to avoid is having to shift anybody to full remote. So.
Aaron, you wanted to say
It's
something?
it's not necessary now.
I have
Tammy,
a
go
question.
ahead.
Well, I guess I have a question, I guess.
Yep.
So, okay, so we're going, if we ask them or require them to be tested before they come back, I'm assuming we're talking about a PCR, not a rapid test somewhere, right? So potentially they lose 3 school days if they're lucky to get their PCR done that quickly. What is our options for learning during those days that we're now going to require them above and beyond the state recommendation for their education?
Well, the state requires anybody not vaccinated to be tested. State.
Or
Quarantine 10
Quarantine.
days.
Or quarantine.
Or quarantine?
Yeah.
Right.
So,
So our thought was, how do we get them back in the classroom quicker?
Faster.
So that they're not at home, 10
So
days.
you're talking students and staff?
And staff, yes.
Okay.
We also want
But-
the staff
So
to
what
get
about
tested.
staff that are fully vaccinated?
So
Or
the data's not conclusive yet that they can't carry it,
Okay.
right? So I don't want a group of staff or an individual staff going to location X. They're vaccinated, so they're feeling that they're good to go. They
Right.
come home, they don't realize they're carrying it because they're vaccinated, but they then spread it by coming to work the next day. Do you understand what I mean? It's just, because there's gonna be a mix of, at that point, none of the students clearly will be vaccinated, but we also will have families that are not vaccinated yet. Right, they can sign up, I think, the 19th.
So are you looking for a policy that says anyone who travels out of state must?
Over April vacation, we would like them before they return to the
You would like them
classroom.
to or must?
They need to get tested and it needs to be negative before they return.
So what are the timelines? So,
We
I
need to do
guess,
something,
I guess part of the question then, because it is all technicality of days. So I know that some people who I happen to know are going on April vacation were going to get tested on the Wednesday of their vacation so that they had it ready to go for the Monday of their return. But does that really do anything for us?
Not if they're still on vacation.
Right, but then if you come in
exposed on that
contact
final
on
weekend,
Sunday,
yeah.
and then you get tested on Monday, that doesn't do you anything either, because you have to wait days. So I think that's the complicating part of this, is when is it worthwhile to get tested anyway?
Yeah. The advisory is a 72-hour.
And that's a true question.
No, that's a great question. The advisory is a 72-hour before arriving back in Massachusetts, I think, to your point. But what happens on the plane, on the plane
Well, right, I
home,
mean,
right?
I have a friend
Or
who
the drive, or
clearly
the-
got it in the airport.
Yeah, I get it. That's the mass advisory, which is a little bit of a head scratcher. I don't know, Karen, if you want to speak to that at all, but.
Yeah, that was why we had changed it, I forget, I think that was in January, to eliminate the 72-hour rule, because to me, it makes no sense to be, tested in Florida, spend another couple days there,
Yep.
fly home, and go to school on Monday.
So our hours would need to actually be worded
Differently.
upon return to, upon returning home, you must obtain a negative PCR
Yes.
to return to school or work. So I'll make a motion. Is it too early to make a motion, Jane?
Go. I just.
Oh, wait, make
Yep,
a
no,
motion.
go ahead,
One
Karen.
other question.
Yeah.
Would this also apply to families who have joint custody and kids are with dads crossing to Rhode Island, crossing to here, crossing to there? No?
No,
Like, how far, does this?
for
Only
custody,
certain states.
Well, that's what I mean, though. Like, if you're saying that your kid's gonna go visit family in Connecticut,
There's already a provision in place for families
yeah,
with joint
for
custody.
for custody, visitation
So that
issues.
wouldn't impact them.
Okay, would be okay.
Yeah.
Certainly, if they wanted to be tested, I'm never going to say, oh, no, please don't. But it's not required for them. Because we don't want to put up any roadblocks to
Yeah.
families children being able to see the other parent.
And I will say test results are coming back much quicker now
They are.
than they were. I haven't heard of people having to wait 3 days recently.
No.
Bellingham Urgent Care came back in 24 hours from my
What?
son the other day. Bellingham Urgent Care, you could walk in, you didn't need an appointment.
And it's
And it
24
came back
hours.
within 24 hours.
Yeah, that's-
Because
that's-
my son was close contact and I had to do it.
Yeah. And I, in my conversation earlier, I asked that we look at Bellingham CVS, Woonsocket CVS, and maybe even have, if we could, a local clinic, like the Sunday, the Sunday before, they get their results on Monday. So, this conversation has just happened recently, clearly, but I do think we can be a little more proactive to people, but I do think there's we're saying to we said, first and foremost, we want to educate the children in a healthy, safe, and as safe as possible. And that was our number one goal when we started doing all of this. And if that's still the case, but we want to bring them back, I think we have an obligation, personally, to bring them back in a way that is equitable and not telling anybody they can't travel, not saying that. People, are going to make their own decisions. But if you make them, understand the consequences that brings to everybody else who didn't have that same advantage or same opportunity or who want their child or their staff person who hasn't finished the vaccines or gotten all of them to be equally, or can't get them for a reason, health reason, whatever that may be.
I'd like to say too, Karen and I discussed this earlier, should the committee decide to move in this direction, we know if there is anyone that has any difficulty arranging for testing, then please, anyone, whether it's staff, students, families, they can reach out to Karen or myself, and we will facilitate any testing procedures that are needed for them, get them set up with where they can go.
Aaron, yes, go ahead.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we implement a policy for any staff or students traveling through April vacation. Or do we want to say the end of the school year at this point?
Shouldn't it just
Through
be
the end of this school year, would have to obtain a negative PCR after returning back to Massachusetts in order to return to work or school.
Second.
Okay, there's been a first and a motion and a second, and Tammy's waiting. Patiently. And then me.
So the Monday you're absent.
Well, that's assuming they come back Sunday, right? Not everybody.
Right.
It depends on when you return.
How is that absent day working against kids?
It won't work against anybody. Anybody who's out that has to quarantine or they're waiting for it, as long as they're healthy and they feel okay to do it, we'll mark them virtually present.
Okay.
So they'll get their work in Google Classroom, and they'll have the teacher available on their Google Hangout link a few times a day, or the staff member a few times a day to check in with.
And then what about staff? What are the options for staff if we're asking them to? Because for me, my issue is now this body, me who has no medical background, is overriding what the state's people are saying is the advisory, so I'm having a hard time with that. So for our teachers, what does that day count for them?
You mean, are we going to charge them a sick day?
I guess.
Is that what you're asking?
I was trying not to pinpoint my thought there, but what's the deal for teachers that are following, potentially following a policy this board is making against what Massachusetts is saying to do? What's their, I don't want to say consequence, but what's the result of
I guess
that?
I would, before I answer that, I guess I would ask folks to not look at this as a punishment. I'm looking at it as additional insulation to keep our families and kids healthy. And I think if we frame it as a punishment, I think we're looking at that wrong.
Yeah.
Because I too got my vaccine, and my second one is Tuesday, but a lot of my family and friends haven't. And so I can't be running around with my mask off doing whatever I want to do. There is a piece to this that we have to, as we've done everything else in phases and caution, I just would ask folks to look at it as an insulation and a safety strategy. It's not going against what the governor is saying. We're not doing what he's saying. We're just trying to add another layer of safety, that's all.
And we are kind of, I mean, this is really
hugely
hard to
different
read. This
than-
is really hard to read.
Please know, I'm not asking that we remove masks once we're back. I mean,
Oh, no,
the
no,
mask thing is
No.
the mask thing, but I just think that, I have a hard time with, we're okay if a kid goes to his dad's house in Connecticut, but if I go on vacation to Connecticut, that's a different outline. Like, I'm gonna, somehow, if I go see my dad, I'm not going to get COVID, but if I go to Foxwoods, I may. So I have a hard time with like these, we're okay with it in this case, but in this case, you have to be tested. So I'm having a little hard time with that.
Like this last sentence though, travelers may also test out of their quarantine after arrival in Massachusetts, as long as they quarantine until receiving a negative test.
Is what we're saying.
It
also says you
highlighting
can
the
test
last-
while you're on vacation.
I think my
But
tough
if you
part
keep
is-
reading that, it says, if you don't do the 72 hours prior, you're quarantined for 10 days, but you can test out of quarantine. So that's technically what we're
But
asking them to do.
instead of testing before someone leaves Florida, they can touch down in Logan, test on their way home, have the negative test by Monday, but they could have picked it up at Logan.
Right, they could have. But Karen, can I ask you, this is the scientist person in me. If I have had my shots, and I've had both of them, and I've had the two, because they say it's, 2 weeks after, and so then I travel and I wouldn't I test negative? Wouldn't I, like, even though I may be carrying the virus and touch somebody or whatever, would I?
No, you can be vaccinated
So I could
and
be
test
immune,
positive.
but still test positive?
Yeah, yeah.
Because it would be in my nasal passage or whatever.
With the
whatever they test.
vaccine, it's not 100%. So you still may get COVID.
Right.
And it was manufactured against the original variant.
Sure.
And with some of the other variants, and now the variants are having variants.
Yeah.
And in India, there's a double mutation of the variants. So viruses they're tough little things, and they know how to survive. So it's not, the vaccine doesn't mean that you can't get COVID. What they've shown is that if you're vaccinated, it's very unlikely that you will have severe illness or death. But you can still be positive.
So you would, okay. So it does make sense then to require everybody to take a test. Because I would want to know, even if I'm vaccinated, that I'm carrying this little thing.
Yep.
I was going to call it something else. We're on television.
No 4-letter words, Jane.
No. Well, it wasn't going to be 4 letters, but it had a lot of letters.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Will you disclose after the meeting?
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. Anybody else have any thoughts, concerns? If we have a whole lot of people who return on Sunday, so they don't get their test, they get it on Monday, do we have the ability to cover all the staff that might travel?
We will have to make that work.
Okay.
We'll have to
We
get
will have to go back to our Monday half-day last day of school.
Right. It's a
bring the
snow
calendar
day.
back.
It's a vaccine test day.
Let's hope not.
Oh, Lord. Okay. All right. Anybody else? Okay. All those in favor of the motion to require and this was just through April vacation? What did
No, I
you
said end of school
Through the
year.
end of the school
We
year.
didn't have to talk about this again.
If you travel out of state before you return to the classroom, you have a negative And you specifically said PCR, not the rapid test, correct? PCR test. That's what you seconded, correct? Yes, okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Abstentions? I'm sorry, nays?
Nay.
Okay, and then abstentions. Okay, the motion passed. All right, lost my,
And
We need to,
oh, we need to approve the handbook.
The handbook.
Yep, thank you, that's what I'm just looking. The changes in red to the handbook. I would have liked
So
us to say 4
moved.
feet, but that's okay. What?
So moved.
So moved, thank you, Tammy. Second?
Second.
Second by Sarah. All right, any discussion on those changes? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
Great, thank you. And then lastly, just my last item in your packet, thank you so much, Karen, is the RISE Initiative Facilities Use Form that Rep. Soter spoke to earlier this evening, that he would be looking to use this space on Sunday from 10:30 to 2. That's the space is the AFM cafeteria, the complex cafeteria. So we just need approval for that.
Somebody want to make a motion to approve the use? We don't charge him,
moved.
right?
No, if the committee authorizes.
Terrible. That would be okay, moved by Aaron, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Carrie. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, say nay. Abstentions. Okay, so moved.
Great, thank you. And that concludes my report.
That does. Mr. Aaronworth.
Not a thorough analysis of the budget anymore, I'm happy to say, but I can give an update. Since its certification, Dr. DeFalco, myself, Jane, you on a number of occasions, we've been meeting with the towns to review and discuss the certified budget. On March 16th, we met with the Blackstone Board of Selectmen. Yesterday, we attended Millville's Finance Committee, to which the Board of Selectmen were also invited to that meeting. And we have plans currently scheduled with Blackstone's Finance Committee to meet on April 7th to review the certified budget. And afterwards, we will be disseminating our budget book and preparing for the annual town meetings. Any questions?
And Matt's done a great job, they haven't had a single question.
They really haven't.
They haven't?
It's gone yeah, very well. Nice work.
Thank you.
They're saving them for the town floor.
I probably.
Because it's much more
We
exciting.
will be prepared to answer any questions that come our way.
Always some good questions on town floor.
Always welcome. With that, I have, with respect to facilities, we just have an update on the capital planning committee. We have put together a capital planning subcommittee, so I want to thank the towns for those people that volunteered to be a part of that. And we have tentatively scheduled our first meeting for Wednesday, April 14th at 5:30 p.m. in this very same location. And that will be obviously in person.
Can you
I feel
repeat
like I
that
need
one
to
more
state
time?
that anytime we
April
discuss a meeting.
14th?
April 14th.
April 14th at 5:30 p.m.
5:30, live and in person here.
Thank you.
We have representatives from both towns?
We do.
We do.
We have representatives from Blackstone, Millville. We have a parent representative as well from the district.
Jane, do I need to post that?
Yes.
Okay, I thought so, but like the RAC meeting, we.
Yes,
same
just like
thing?
the rec.
Okay,
Yep. And we need to select a chairperson,
gotcha.
but they can do that when they meet.
And I will make
It
sure to
won't be
have,
Sarah.
I will make sure to have the, all of the agenda items and documents in preparation as well, so that can be made public in advance. Unless there are questions? The end of my update.
Hey.
we
Thank
do
you,
this under
Mr. Aaronworth. Woo, woo, all right, any school committee members have any issues to address or come before the board?
I would like to ask, I would like to talk for a minute about our seniors. usually we have student representatives here, and they'll give us an update and a countdown. I can tell you that it's 2 months, 1 week, and 2 days until, oh, I might be wrong, hold on. Yes, 2 months, 1 day, 1 week, and 2 days until graduation. Usually the kids will tell us how many days are left, class days are
School,
left.
right.
I think their last day is May 27th.
Yes, May 27th.
Jason, do you have an update on, or anything that can be shared for senior activities?
Sure.
Including graduation or other senior events?
Yeah, sure.
I'm not asking you to give us inside information, but anything that's public or
Oh, yeah, yeah.
possible to share.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, Aaron, thank you. So we're excited, we actually because of some of the new language, they are looking at doing an outdoor kind of senior prom, but no dates, just kind of the class, so that they can be together. They're looking at doing some other type of events similar where, you know, they're going to try to merge some of the things like awards and the banquet and try to do some things together. So they're thinking creatively and looking at doing things a little bit different. But I think probably the biggest important piece is that we can have a graduation. So we will be looking at having an outdoor graduation, and the Department of Education put some guidance out this week. You know, distancing and masks and all of those provisions, but we can do it, which is really awesome that we'll be able to.
Do you know, in that guidance, did it limit
6
numbers? Six.
It said no more than 6, yeah, per family. So we'll have to figure the spacing out on all that and how we can do that. They were also very specific about, you know, you can do diplomas, sort of, but they have to be placed down and.
You can put it in the bank slide out. That's what I was picturing when I read it. Like you can put it in, you can slide out the
Slide it
thing,
to
they
'em.
can grab it, you pull it back in.
Yeah, so there's some different
No
kinds of.
handshakes
Handing
and,
out.
and
Yeah.
head rubs? No handshakes and head rubs?
Yeah, Keith Ducharme is no head rubs.
No.
So if you have 2 kids, it's 12 people?
I think so.
I think so. I do believe.
Wait, but hold on, if any of you opened your newspaper in the last 2 weeks, there was an article on how many twins and
Yes,
there
yeah.
are in this class, so I don't speak from just myself. There are several sets.
Yep.
So Jason, will there be a rain date since it's
I think it's
outdoor?
the Saturday. I believe it's the next day.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and I do want to give the seniors a huge shout out because last year, the senior class, you know, all this was kind of unfolding in the midst of their spring, but remember, our current seniors went through that. Plus, they missed all of the pep rallies, the class competitions, all of that. So as we're going into this final stretch, I think, you know, we should keep that in mind and think about it, really embracing them just as much as we have in the past with, you know, dealing with last year's seniors.
So will there still, typically there's a senior week and it's a field trip, a banquet, what else am I?
Awards.
Awards night.
They're looking at doing as many of those types of activities that they can.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I think some they're looking at they might need to combine and try to do it a little bit different, but I know that I just met with Mike and Keith last week about this. So I know they're trying to plan some of those as joint events. The seniors were just together for the first time a couple weeks ago getting their shirts. We had to get a drone up there to take a senior class because they had
Has
to
that picture come out yet?
I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't either,
Yeah.
okay. And they
but-
did, my seniors came home today with their 21 shirts, which typically would have been last May. They would have worn them on the seniors' last day of school last year. I think that there's some like rivalry there. But all the kids usually hand sign the shirt. So they came home with them today.
Oh, nice.
For their personalized shirts, but the Finish Strong shirts were a nice touch a few weeks ago too.
Are they going to keep the parade from last year?
No, at this point, they don't think so because the state is not approving those now. They were very generous with that last year, but this year, they are not as generous. Because it requires the closing of a lot of different streets. They actually have to get the approval of some state board, and they're not going to do that this
The
year.
motorcycle squad or something.
It's something like that, yeah, it's something I never heard of.
Really weird, remember? It's like really
Yeah.
We were
weird.
introduced to last
We
year.
even knew
Yeah.
they existed.
They are looking to see if there's something they can do, not necessarily on graduation, but, you know, there's usually like a senior parade in the morning.
Right, from the
from
JFK,
complex.
yeah.
So they're having some discussion if there's a way they can try to do something creative, maybe from Millville Elementary over to the high school, so they try to grab a little bit of everything, but they're not sure. So they're trying to do something like that.
That was a blast, just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can't get it approved.
No.
Yeah.
And Aaron, I'm sorry, it says singing and the playing of brass and wind instruments is discouraged.
Yeah.
No wind?
No wind and no brass. You
Yeah,
can
there's
play the
certain
drums
people,
all you want.
certain people who won't be able to be invited. No, just kidding. No wind.
Sorry, Todd Schaefer.
But I think there's already a plan in place for that,
Oh, good.
I believe. My 10th grader already told me they're recording it.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
So
there you go.
that it will still be our band playing for
The music.
them. And actually, the nice touch to that is the seniors don't typically play
Right.
during graduation.
Now they
so they will play for themselves.
Yeah, that's nice.
That is awesome.
All right. Anyone else? I do have something. Okay. No. At this meeting on March 25th, I would officially like to thank Jack and Karen for their service to the school committee. It has been invaluable. I know it has sometimes made for very long nights and interesting conversations, but we would not have been the team we were without both of you. So you know we have a great gift for you, which is your name tag, which, Jack, does this now mean you have two?
I think so.
All right, there you go. But I do, thank you both very, very much for putting yourself out there, because as people, we all know, it's not easy to run, it's not easy to be in front of families and make decisions about who has to test and doesn't have to test. It's not easy. But you guys have done it with grace and commitment and perseverance, so thank you both very much.
Been a lot of fun the past 4 years. Ready to
You were
get
here
some other
longer than
stuff
that,
done.
Jack.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
you were with us
past
for a year before that.
Yeah.
Been a lot of fun. Ready to get the next chapter started.
Will you
here.
miss us?
Absolutely.
Will you watch us?
We'll watch you.
Well, that's a little less like highlights. I'll have Jesse make some highlights.
I don't know, Jack, what I'm gonna do on the sick bank, though. It's only been us for however many years.
We run it pretty thoroughly.
We do.
My whole side of the table's gone.
Yeah, right?
Leaves
Get
you
the
sad.
I know. And Jill, a challenge to you. We have had student reps on our committee in the past that have usually come at the beginning of the meeting, but at least, you know, keep us up to date about what's going on in the high school, and that is something that we would love to continue to see.
We sorely missed this year.
Yeah, it really was missed.
But I do think they didn't have much to update.
Yeah.
I think
We've
it
done
would've been
nothing.
a hard
We've done
conversation.
Yeah.
I do. She can drive herself to this meeting next year.
Oh, gosh, oh, gosh, oh, gosh. You're old. Anyone else? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Our next meeting is scheduled for, I don't know when, April 8th. April 8th. 6 PM here at Hartnett Middle School, live and in person, from now on out. Unless something drastic happens and we all go on vacation.
So moved.
Thank you, Jack. A second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Good night.
I think my daughter is asleep over there.